Oliver Anthony is a Virginia-based singer who has suddenly burst onto the scene all of a sudden out of nowhere with his song The Rich Men North of Richmond, and it has become a #1 sensational hit with conservatives and patsocks, which I will now no longer refer to as patsocks because there already was a patriotic socialism before they came along that they stole the name from. I'm going to refer to them as something more accurate, Fascist, for reasons that should be obvious. Now, when you have conservatives lining up with the same fanship as Fascist, something should immediately tell you right away that something is wrong. One of these two groups is not doing the thing it is that they claim to be doing. He also claims that record companies have come to him and offered him millions of dollars to sign a record deal. And if he says he doesn't need all that money, he doesn't need 15 tractors and huge amounts of land and all those other things that he definitely wouldn't buy if he actually had that kind of money, and says that they all stood there with shocked looks in their face and couldn't understand why there were some things more important than money. But I'm going to take things that never happened for $500, Alex. And even the idea of a conservative actually placing some kind of integrity or ideal over money is just simply ludicrous. The people literally worship money as being a symbol of their own greatness. If they got rich, they must have done something great to deserve it. That's literally the whole basis of wealth prosperity inside their fake conception of Christianity. Now, his song talks a lot about how blue-collar working-class people are dumped on by the system and how the rich really oppresses them with a lot of the nonsense that they have to go through as a result, much of which is very much true and speaks to many of the hard conditions that a lot of working-class people do deal with. The problem is that he then turns around and blames a ton of it on poor people. And then it makes very cryptic remarks about child trafficking. He refers to an island where the rich go where there's children. Now, if he's referring to Epstein's Island and how the authorities in the country are blatantly covering up the client list of Jeffrey Epstein, then he would be absolutely correct. They are putting more effort into that than making people's lives better. It's almost like capitalism isn't designed to make people's lives better, but to make certain people rich. If he's trying to very dog whistle the Democrats are doing child trafficking, well then he's an idiot and a conspiracy theorist, and he deserves every bit of ridicule that he actually gets. But the main part here is how he blatantly dumps all over the poor and then essentially claims that everybody on welfare is like this fat 5'2", 300-pound person that just doesn't want to work. Now, this is a very common conservative refrain, that anybody on welfare just doesn't want to work, despite the fact that the people on welfare are overwhelmingly, in majority, white. And a lot of them, most of them, are conservative. And in fact, if you actually look at the statistics, white conservative dominated areas are the ones with the highest welfare rate, which would seem to go against the opposite of everything they claim, like everybody on welfare is black, everybody on welfare just doesn't want to work, and all these other complete nonsense positions and claims that conservatives have been making of the poor since, I don't know, time immemorial, I guess. So he's really just repeating anti-poor sentiment that very much comes from an elitist and very often white supremacist stance. But we're supposed to believe, of course, that he's just like some working class hero that other people just don't get, and if you don't get him, then you're not pro-working class. And it's odd that such people who claim to be left would be flocking to this guy and calling him a real hero, like Midwestern Marx and Caleb Maupin. You know, people who have essentially already outed themselves as fascists. You know, the Fascist, who say that they're all about leftism and struggling against the system, but are against guns for some reason, and turn around and defend America as though it's something great, and literally defend the American project, which is genocide, land theft, and nonstop imperialism and war, but somehow America is still great. Isn't it amazing that if you're supposed to be against capitalism, which both of these knobs claim to be, you might want to not do the whole hating on the poor thing? Except that that's kind of their point. They hate on the lumpen, the people that they feel are lesser than them and not good enough to have socialism. You know, the lumpen people, the ones with actual and far more revolutionary potential than the so-called $70,000 a year construction worker who's totally willing to pick up a gun and fight a revolution at any moment, right? Just like you two knobs, right? Those with the most to gain and the least to lose somehow are less revolutionary than you guys? Think about that. Do you remember when in Marxist history it's been a case of where you didn't reach to the lower and deeper sections of the proletariat, as Lenin said, but instead do as Maupin suggested, reach to the richer and whiter sections of the proletariat? Not something he literally said, but that's basically what his theory is. So should we be surprised in any way that these two, who are closeted fascists, love this song so much? And why those who continue to claim to be leftists and then really love this song so much and have those very right, very extreme right tendencies like immense homophobia? No, I'm just against them doing like stuff to our children, part of that conspiracy that doesn't exist. It is. This guy is a perfect example of America. Claim you're here to boost yourself up and to do great, but somehow there's always the person with less than you that's keeping you down. Those with no power in society somehow are the ones dragging you down. I mean, you could punch up, which he does for a portion of the song, but you could also flying elbow drop down, which is a hell of a lot easier. Hey, that's America, baby. And that's very much tied into white supremacy and imperialist ideology. And very much, that's very Christian of you. Because if Jesus said anything, it was all about hating the poor, right? This also goes to demonstrate how very fake the Christianity of these fascists actually is. The people like Caleb Maupin, the holier-than-thou asshole type, who continue to pound the gavel of being better than other people because he's a true Christian and follows the ways of Jesus Christ, while shitting on poor people as if that was Jesus' message or something. And you know how Jesus mentioned about sexually abusing women and coercing them into providing sexual services for you, right? But that's another subject for another day. Now, speaking of fake Christians, in July 2023, Oliver got right with God when he decided to stop drinking, got his life back together, and then suddenly became a huge sensation on social media, mainstream media now. To 30 days later, he became trending to have the #1 country song. Complaining about the rich keeping you down while simultaneously spitting on the poor. Well, that is a conservative message. It's also very much a middle-class message. Isn't that very much the message that the middle class has been giving out? Isn't that the message that the bourgeoisie gave to the middle class that they created as a buffer between the rich and the poor? No, you know, the poor people are the ones that you should really be worrying about, because they're the ones that are really taking all your money away. They're the ones that are the real threat. You know, like the same thing about saying immigrants are a bigger threat to you than the multi-billionaires that are running the system. Unless, of course, those billionaires are Chinese, then all of a sudden they're a good thing. It's the same kind of absolute anti-Marxist nonsense. Now, I don't expect Oliver to be a Marxist because he's not a Marxist. But those who claim to be Marxist and then go around repeating this kind of nonsense are the ones who deserve to be criticized. The whole point of creating the middle class and creating the middle class perspective, which he is espousing in this video, is to prevent class consciousness. is to prevent the poor from daring to say anything against the rich, because you've always got that buffer in the middle called the middle class. That very thing aimed to stop revolutionary activity and to stop revolutionary consciousness, you seem to be celebrating so openly and with such great passion. But you're totally leftists, right? But you're totally Marxists, right? And I would love to see one of these people actually defend themselves taking a position which is blatantly anti-Marxist and was specifically designed to squash Marxism as a tendency. I would love for that to work in their minds. Really, what this is about is them hating black people. Well, we know when conservatives are talking about the welfare class, the welfare queens, we know exactly who they're talking about. The kind of people they think are that welfare class. We can usually tell them by the color of their skin. And isn't it amazing how so many of the fash socks just are like blatantly, openly racist? Richmond, north of Richmond, and the welfare people that are like leeching from us, taking the money away and making things harder for us. Well, no, the imperialist war machine is. If you have the ability to count to 100, then you'd be able to look at the national budget and see how much of the national income goes to military expenditures. You know, that's why it's called an empire. That's what keeps America in its hegemonic position, which is failing. I mean, you could criticize that. You could criticize that it would be a lot better to buy textbooks than fighter jets, that it would be a better investment in people to renovate every school in the country for less than it would cost to build, like 2 ships, 2 destroyers in the U.S. Navy, maybe even 1. But, I digress. That's really common sense that you should really already know, and that if I have to tell you that, then you really are a fascist, and you're pretty much an open fascist at this point. In the end, this song speaks to one thing more than anything else. First worldism. America's great, America's fine, we're the best, and we'll show how other countries how to do the revolution. The poor that referring to in this song, in the minds of Marxists, is the third world. Those lower people that aren't really worth much, this very Trotskyist self-superior element that runs right through first worldism, the idea that, it's going to be America, bro, that shows everybody else the right way, how to do revolution. And that same kind of disdain for the lumpen proletariat and for the underdeveloped countries in the world that came from, not just from Marx and his completely incorrect view on the matter, but the constant unending prejudice that came out of Trotsky, which is now finding a new place in first worldism. As you continues to be really blatantly obvious that the theory espoused by third worldism that in times of crisis, the first world does not tend towards revolution. The advanced industrialized country, which we now call the first world countries, don't tend towards revolution. They tend towards fascism, as has been the entire historical pattern. They're going to live in denial of it. I mean, even though, people like you are literally doing it. Fash sucks are doing it. The MAGA communists are literally doing it. You're literally appealing to fascists. And then say you're going to bring them on board and bring them over to the opposite of what they stand for. Yeah, okay, bro, tell me how that works out and why it's going to be different than the 5 or 6 other times it's been tried historically and have been a complete failure. And what your internet movement is going to do differently that all of them who were actually in the streets and actually talked to human beings couldn't do. So in the end, it's a complete representation of America. We're the best, we're the thing. We know the right way, we know better than everybody else, we're exceptional. we're better than all the other the lowly people, and we need to show them what to do, and they're a drag on us. To hell with them. But somehow there's always some conspiracy from up on high, whether that be the British Empire or some shadowy group of people, in this case the rich, who very much do own the system, and that should be blatantly obvious to anyone. I mean, regardless of your political stripe. But that mentality of having to punch up and then having to punch down at the same time speaks volumes to what this is really about, and how this is very much a part of that building fascism in America. That liberal fascism and that conservative fascism. And yes, the fascists actually are the conservative fascism, not the liberal fascism that's coming out of Biden, but the conservative fascism that's coming out of Donald Trump. And just two more things before I end this video. One, to those calling this pile of crystal meth with an ego the next Woody Guthrie or the new Woody Guthrie, seriously think about following your leader. Because Woody Guthrie didn't shit all over the poor. Woody Guthrie was anti-fascist. You know, that's why he put in his guitar, "This machine kills fascists," because he was anti-fascist. He didn't go around pandering to them like this guy does. Big goddamn difference. And it is nothing more than an insult to the left to compare that pile of fucking garbage to Woody Guthrie. And second, and don't say that this is the new rednecks or something like that, because the original rednecks, the ones that you're referring to, were anti-racist, and they didn't dump on the poor. They tried to lift them up. They didn't call them weights that were pulling them down and saying that they were fat pieces of garbage who were fat and didn't want to work. Don't you ever compare yourselves to the original rednecks, because you are nothing like them. Absolutely at all. And finally, I would love to see how you could, any one of these people could possibly rationally defend any one of their positions on this guy and claim that he's working class while he's literally dumping on the poor. I would love to see the mental gymnastics that you would have to go through in order to prop up that position, because I know you have them. If you can walk around thinking Chinese billionaires is socialism, that massively growing inequality in China is socialism, you can pretty much do a flying handspring through just about anything. So go ahead, do it. In the description, try to explain how this song could possibly be revolutionary, or could possibly be leftist, given the fact that it completely dumps on the poor. And don't be an idiot who clearly can't make an argument and just say, yeah, but he criticizes the poor, but he criticizes the rich. I know that. I put that in this video. You're going to have to justify the things that are not leftist, not prop up the things that are leftist. Okay, because I know you couldn't make an argument to save your lives, because you have the fucking intellectual capacity of a goddamn potato. Okay, so I just helped you out a little bit and helped you think. Go ahead, in the comments, defend this utterly ridiculous song, and defend your blatant and open defending of this fascism. Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.